One person has reportedly died after an avalanche rushed down a mountain at a popular ski resort in New Mexico. Two skiers were trapped in what's being described as concrete-like snow at Taos Ski Valley yesterday.
Now we are following some breaking news in the French Alps where an avalanche has killed at least 4 skiers. It happened at a popular ski resort near the Italian and Swiss border.
The avalanche, 2 young Americans with incredible promise, Olympic hopefuls, gone in moments.
Now to new concern about avalanches after another deadly incident, a snow slide in Colorado trapping a man. It's the 3rd fatal avalanche in just days.
Hello, my name is Sam Verplanck, and I'm here to talk with you today about how we can better understand avalanche initiation. And that's what I'm studying as a PhD student in mechanical engineering at Montana State University. So how does that happen? Well, you need snow and a trigger. That trigger could be a skier, like shown here, or a snowmobiler, or an explosive in avalanche control work. And then that snow needs to have layers. Not every type of snow is the same. Some snow is really sticky and easy to grab onto, like when you pack a snowball, it just stays really tight. And that's an example of some really strong snow. Whereas other times you'll pick up snow and it'll just fall through your fingers, and you can't pack it at all, and that's a really weak type of snow. So if you have a strong layer of snow above a weak layer of snow, and some trigger, like a skier, starts a crack in this weak layer, that crack can shoot through the weak layer until it's traveled to such an extent that all the snow on top slides down the mountain. And that's the recipe for an avalanche. Judging the strength of this weak layer and how far a crack can travel through it is tricky business. In mountain communities, avalanche forecasters work tirelessly throughout the winter to put out daily avalanche forecasts and paint a broad brushstroke across mountain ranges, labeling the danger as essentially high, medium, or low. So shown here is a daily avalanche forecast for the mountains surrounding Bozeman, and you can see that the northern mountains are labeled as a higher danger, red, and the southern mountains are labeled with orange, like a lower danger. But this leaves individuals to make decisions on a slope-by-slope basis on if they think if they think a snow slope is going to slide or not. And one of the tools that both avalanche forecasters use to put out these forecasts and individuals use to judge the stability of slopes are stability tests, like those shown here. And in most stability tests, you dig out some block of snow, and you can jump on that snow or tap on it with a shovel or drop some known weight on it, and you're getting a feel and a judge for how strong this weak layer is. But this is tricky business too, because it's just you're just getting one location, and you're getting this sort of gut feel for how strong the slope is. And one of the mysteries in avalanche science is how this weak layer is breaking specifically. I'll explain this a little bit more, because it's not obvious at first. Like, not everything breaks the same. Different materials break differently under different circumstances. So here's a zoomed in photo of a weak layer of snow that has been broken on the left and is intact on the right. And you can see that there's strong, dense snow above it. And that weak layer is like a whole bunch of little dominoes or feathers that are just holding up this strong layer barely. And you can see that it's both sort of collapsed and slid to the side. And I'm trying to understand how these mechanisms are at play. So there's that sliding, twisting action that seems to be really critical in how a weak layer of snow breaks. And as you get onto steeper slopes, that sliding force is stronger. So that's one component of how this weak layer is breaking. And another component is a crushing action, like a can being crushed. Because you can see that the strong snow above the weak layer has actually dropped down. So this crushing also plays a critical role. But the crack also shoots through the entire weak layer like a whole bunch of dominoes falling over. So there's these sort of different ideas of how this weak layer is breaking. And because avalanches happen very fast and the action is happening below the surface of the snow, we don't really understand how they all play together. One of the tools I'm using to try and understand how this weak layer is breaking is a tool called a geophone. So geophones are normally used in earthquake science and seismology to measure how the ground is shaking during and after an earthquake. But I'm sort of borrowing the core components of these and integrating them in to a snow sensor so I can measure how the snow is shaking as that weak layer is breaking. So here's a picture of an experiment I did this winter at the Yellowstone Club with some of my colleagues here. And we put a geophone below a weak layer, and then we also put accelerometers, which are what's in your phone to measure how your phone shakes and moves. Like if you switch from landscape mode to portrait mode, accelerometers are what's telling your phone that it's moving. So I've put accelerometers and geophones in the snow above and below a weak layer. And then as this weak layer breaks, I can measure how the snow around it is moving and shaking. Another tool I'm using is a tilt table. And this is something I've been developing this winter and will continue to work on next winter. And in this, I'm seeing how those stability test results change with different slope angles. So I'll go to a flat snow meadow and isolate a block of snow, and then I'm able to tilt it up at 0 degrees, 5 degrees, 10 degrees, and so on, to see how those test results change as the slope angle changes. And also I'm in engineering school, and so I'm using a lot of engineering analysis tools to better understand how weak layers are breaking. And I can simulate snow pit tests using a method called finite element analysis. And in this method, you can simulate where the area of highest stress is. So you can see that red dot is where there's the highest stress, and that's where that failure is going to initiate. So I'm using some engineering analysis tools. I'm also using a study called fracture mechanics that was developed to prevent ships from breaking in half and airplanes being ripped apart as they're flying. But rather than applying this field of study to aluminum or steel, I'm applying it to snow and using the same concepts and same math to better understand how snow is breaking. And then last but not least, I'm sort of combining all of these ideas and measurements to work towards generating mathematical models for how snow breaks and how avalanches happen. So right now we have good mathematical models for weather prediction. We can take in humidity data and pressure and temperature and predict the weather, a few days in advance on if it's going to rain or not. But we don't have a great tool like that for avalanche forecasting. So I'm working to develop and validate tools like an idea shown here. And I know this is a little overwhelming, but this is just to show you that we're using these physical concepts to sort of predict avalanches. So here it's this snow on top is like a beam deforming, and then the weak layer is like a whole bunch of springs that are changing their location a little bit as that crack's traveling through it to better forecast an avalanche. So hopefully all this work will lead to better avalanche science and prevent tragedies like those we heard about at the beginning from happening in the future. And I'd like to thank my list of advisors here who have all been very helpful in the development of this project and my continued work. The Montana State University Sub-Zero Research Laboratory where I work, the American Avalanche Association, and the STEM Storytellers program have all been very helpful, as well as my mother, who I couldn't do this work without, and people like her inspire me to do the work I do to make traveling in the snowy mountains in the wintertime a safer activity. So thank you for your time.